Welcome back to Omni-Versal. Today we're talking about tipping. And we had left a poll on Instagram to see which topics you wanted us to talk about. And today is tipping. Last week we did one on solar panels, so if you'd like to check that out, should you get them or not. So today is tipping, and I guess it's going to be just kind of a general talk, I guess, as to how we feel about it, or how we justify it or not justify it, and should it continue? What should we do about it? Would you like to start or no?
Sure. A lot of my family, well, a lot of my cousins had been in the food service industry, and tipping was a really big thing for them. I remember having a conversation with them, and they're like, "No, if you have service in general, you should tip big." And I thought, I've never worked in food service. I probably can't talk on this. But
how un-American of you.
Oh.
To have an opinion on something you know nothing about. Or to not have an opinion on something.
I stayed quiet. I stayed quiet and I listened to them. But now that you go different places and they ask you for a tip for everything, it's incredible. Mm-hmm. A basic, I don't know what goes into it, right? And that's, I am here to be enlightened also, right? Tell me how it is, right? As a barista, when you are getting money to make the drinks, are you being paid hourly at a fair rate, or are you dependent on the tips, right? So when we do takeout, are you being paid regular, or are you asking me for a tip? Do I need to tip you? There are different things, right? So when you have a concierge or some kind of service, a desk, somebody at the desk helps you, and you're like, wow, this was really wonderful. Can I leave you a tip? There's something different there also, and I have this weird thought in my head to have $50 on the table.
Oh yeah.
And
we always wanted to
for everything that you do great, cool, it gets to stay on the table. You end up with a $50 tip for however long we were there. That's more than a lot of people get paid an hour. Right? And so if you have exemplary service, that's what you get. And then it minimizes for everything. Okay, you saw that my water was empty for 5 minutes and you didn't bother to come and ask me, do you want any more? Then you get $1 taken away for every bad thing.
Yeah, $1. I'd say more than $1, but
well, I mean, it's all hypothetical.
Right.
But that was one of my ideas of what to do.
Go ahead.
Probably my last thought on this is, I kind of think that the people, the owners or whoever, should be paying a better rate. And if they don't pay, then don't work.
Right. To me, it's never made sense that I don't understand why the customer has to pay for their wages. This isn't the business model in any other business. If you own a grocery store or whatever, it's not based on, it's based on the money the store makes, but you're still paying them whatever the minimum wage is, the actual minimum wage. And I don't understand why in the service industry it wouldn't be the same and tips be supplemental.
Yes. How is it that you can get away with not paying your employee at least minimum wage?
Right. And again, maybe we're not at a liberty to just talk about it because we've never owned a restaurant. I've never been a restaurant owner. I don't know if the expenses are that crazy that you can't afford to pay but I kind of don't think that's the case. I think they're pocketing I think they would have enough to pay. At least if it was a norm, you would have found a way already to make it work. If it was a norm that a grocery store or whatever gets paid, grocery store employees get paid the minimum wage, and now a food service place has to get paid minimum wage. It's only an inconvenience now because you're used to it. But if you had been used to it from the beginning that your servers have to be paid minimum wage, then so I don't think that would be a good argument for continuing to pay servers below the minimum wage and based on tips. So unless I hear another one, then maybe I'd be willing to change my mind about it. What would you say counts as service? Like service worthy of a tip?
So, being attentive.
But well, not even that. I guess
like when do I think that they've gone above and beyond?
No. Like if they expected tips at a grocery store, like the people that bag your stuff, like would they be deserving of a tip? It's a service also to me, but I think it's just not a normalized service that we typically tip for. So I'm trying to find what the parameters are for receiving a tip, because technically everyone's
providing a
service, whether it's in your work or whatever, and if you do it well enough, maybe it's worthy of a tip. But what type of service ones are serviceable or tippable services?
Tippable service. Okay, so like at a restaurant, bringing the food and taking the plates away and stuff like that, having the refills going on drinks or chips or salsa, whatever is on your table, them doing that, because that's what I can cook. I don't need to go to a restaurant to be fed.
Right.
But I like being served my food and me not having to cook it, bring it to the table, and then take it away and clean up. Right. So that to me is a huge service. Another service. Oh my gosh. Like back in the day when they would pump gas for you.
Right. When
that's amazing. We came across one of them, like we're in
Phoenix.
Flagstaff or something.
Yeah. In Arizona
somewhere different. But oh my gosh, that was amazing. And like I didn't even mind.
It kind of blew my mind a little bit. I was like, whoa.
Like we pulled up and the guy was like, "Hi.
What kind would you like?" or whatever. Like, was it like?
And you were kind of like, "No, I'll do it." And then once he like started, you're like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "This is amazing." And then like, "May I clean your windows?" "Oh, heck yeah." Like my dad always does that for me. And so I'm spoiled with that. But like that is a really cool service, I think. Doing the stuff that I don't want to do, right, is like servicing.
To me sometimes I think just because it's a social thing now, I go along with it, but I don't like it, is baristas. Because how is this different from preparing a burger? Like, I wouldn't tip you for preparing my burger well, so why should I tip you for making a drink? That's like the bare minimum expectation I have from coming to the place.
But then so like you don't like tipping a bartender?
No, I wouldn't either, because that's also the bare minimum of the service required. Now that one's tiny bit different, because usually people like a little more of the good stuff in it, rather than just you can't taste it, or you're getting that drink for the certain quality effect, or like for
but that could be the same as the coffee.
Perhaps. Maybe. I think if you're like one of the picky ones that like 2.5 pumps of this, do this and that, and this type of milk, and blah blah blah.
I'm gonna pay you for following my directions.
If it's a super picky thing, yeah. But then I think in that same instance, why doesn't a burger person deserve that when they get a super picky order? Like, oh, I want only lettuce and tomato. You can leave a tip
for them too.
I don't think as easily. Yeah, I think you could,
sure,
but
you
it's
could
not
do cash
on the
tip.
Yeah, you could do cash tip, but it doesn't go to the it doesn't go to the cook. It's going to whoever probably.
Right. So what bothers me is the like lack of acknowledging it. Oh, my machine is just gonna ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Okay, B, you know that your machine is asking to tip.
Right.
The other day we went somewhere, paleta bar, and I was gonna tip the girl because she like put it together for us, and then I asked her for a box to go, and she did really good, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put a tip, and she's like, oh no. And she got rid of it. She's like, do you want your receipt? And she got rid of that question. So it leads me to believe that some people can actually answer that question for themselves. They do not have to be asking for these tips, which made me think, like, have you just been blowing sunshine up my butt this entire time? Like, you didn't know? Like, if you think my service was exemplary and you think that I got this drink out to you extremely fast and it's delicious, then please feel free to leave a tip. If not, skip it. Like, they have the power to skip it.
But I still... Part of...
But they can't. Do you remember there was another podcast that we watched, and it's like, ask for the tip. Because so many more people will leave you a tip. And I'm like, that's kind of shady to me.
Yeah, and I guess... Yeah, and to me that... Yeah, ask for the tip. You are going to get it. But it's out of, like, guilt tipping rather than, like, merit tipping.
But do you think that people
it.
Care?
No, I don't think they care. But I think it's just... To me, it's enabling a behavior in society that I don't think should be enabled. Like, why should we be guilt tipping just because I feel... Bad to not answer the... It's not even personal. It's not against your service or whatever. It's like... It's more of the, I feel bad within myself that I don't want to leave anything, whether it was good service or not. Like, this was the bare minimum, especially like in fast-ish food. Like, I would consider coffee places fast food because it's like, you're not cooking it or whatever. It's just compiling it. Like, you know what I mean? And so...
Gosh, but you know, like my bartender thing, the one I just like said, like you wouldn't tip a bartender. I tip bartenders really, really well.
Yes.
Because I expect a good drink, because they could just do the bare minimum and just be like, throw it all together, and then it's like separated in the cup and it's not good. But I've never considered my barista like a bartender.
Right.
And so it makes me want to tip them even better. Is what this conversation did to my brain already.
Maybe, I don't know. That's a good one. Making me think, because it is very similar. Like, you have to work kind of fast under pressure, serving, keep pumping out the drinks. But typically, I think with coffee, you take it to go, and you're pre-tipping for, you don't even know what you're getting.
That's the only problem.
And so with bartending, you usually hang around, you're having a few drinks, like whether they brought
like,
it
wow,
fast,
they're
refilled,
so
or like were they attentive, like do you need another one, and so on. That kind of merits the tip. But to tip before you know what you've gotten, like sometimes, like you already have to put it in, you don't have the drink, you haven't even tasted it, what if they messed it up and you are already tipped? You can't take the tip back.
Or can you?
Maybe you can, but I think it, like, again, that's
get
my
down
point.
At
it's like
Starbucks and be like, your drink sucked.
Yeah, give me my $2 back or whatever. I don't know what the typical tip amount is.
And that's already like 50% of the drink. If you pay for a $4 drink and you leave a $2 tip, that's 50% of. And what is with these suggested?
Yeah.
Okay, so like the suggestions. Okay, like before it was kind of like you do it on your own.
Right.
You know,
another guilt level.
And then I'm like, okay, so they did a really bad job. I'm going to give them 15%. And then
that's
there's
low
no
now.
There's no 15% on the ticket. It's 18%. And I'm like, but you spit in my food. That's not good. Just kidding. They didn't spit in my food.
Right.
But
and the other thing, understanding math, is that 15% is 15%, meaning people are trying to account for inflation. Everything's gone up in price. Yeah, but 15% of an increased price is still 15%. So why is it now gone up to 18%? So if my drink cost $5 before and I'm tipping 15%, and now my drink is $10, I'm tipping 15%. It's still 15% off of $10. So why should I now pay 18% on $10 versus 15% on $10? You get what I mean?
This is why I just make my coffee at home.
Right. I did look up a stat on ChatGPT. I was curious as to how much we spend on tipping.
Holy moly!
And it says, on average, Americans tend to spend around $50 to $100 per month, which adds up to $600 to $1,200 per year. Now imagine investing that, at least, like, it doesn't seem like a lot, or whether it may seem like a lot or not a lot, depending how you see it. But $1,200 investing $1,200 makes your $1,200 retain its value. So meaning, if inflation goes up again, those $1,200 will be worth $1,200 under the new inflation amount. Does that make sense? So whatever you
It
can
won't
buy,
diminish.
right? So whatever you can buy right now for $1,200, let's say it's some fancy TV or a computer, and next year that same TV or computer or new model is $1,500. You have those $1,200 plus you have to add on top of it because your $1,200 can no longer buy what it was before. So at least investing it goes up along with it. So now your $1,200 turned into $1,500 for the next year, so it can buy the same amount. So I think it's better used invested. And I know they say like, well, yeah, getting rid of your coffee isn't gonna make you rich or whatever. No, it isn't. But I think we could also cut back a little. You may not need it as as much as you think you do. And like you said, you can learn to make a good cup of coffee at home. And we should do a separate video on that where you show how to make
I make some badass
She
coffee.
does make really good coffee. And yeah, at home we do have an espresso machine, but it for sure has already paid probably twice its value because we have not.
At one point we were getting coffee every morning.
Yeah.
Mind you, we were doing it at a local place and like it was super delicious, but once we invested in our espresso machine, it quickly paid for itself.
Yeah, and you can adjust it however you want. You want more coffee in it, more cream, more sugar, more whatever. It's your own recipe, and you learn to to perfect it. And yeah, she makes really good coffee. Did we decide what service is base? Because I think like a server, like where they're going back and forth and checking on your food, I think is worthy of like some sort of service. It's something you can't do on your own, like past placing the order. Like at a fast food, you place the order, you expect your order to come back the way you like it's advertised. Like,
I wish we could tip like healthcare workers. Right? Like, so you have, if you're put in a hospital, you have a certified nursing assistant, a CNA. And some of them are so good. And mind you, they get paid okay, but their pay could definitely be more. And so, like, if you could tip because you're actually, like, helping my grandma wipe her butt, and they did it very gently and nice, and they brought you ice chips when you needed it. Like, you were never out of whatever kind of toilet paper, let's say, or Kleenex. That is a service that it, like, goes unsupported.
I suppose that's a good word for it.
And like, I don't know, if our son were to be like, oh, I want to be a server, that would be upsetting to me. I think it's humbling because you're having to service people, right? You're having to assist, you're having to do a lot of legwork. But at the same time, I would encourage him to find a place that pays you. And then your tips are added extra to that.
Okay.
Okay, you're going to get $3.25 an hour. Bullshit. You are not going to get $3.25. That is below the minimum wage. So minimum wage in Texas is $7.25. And then El Paso, which is where we live, bumped it up.
11 or something like that?
I forgot. It was like 12.
This is 11 or 12,
but
around that, like high 11s, low 12s, something like that.
That's just for, apparently, I think it's if you're working for the city, then it's a certain, like, there are different, like, tiers to it. And honestly, I think that I need to look that up if I'm going to be talking about that. So, but it's still very, very low. Like, in Dallas, I work for a company that works, like, I talked to a bunch of people from Dallas, and their minimum wage is $7.25, and their houses are at least double what we have here in El Paso. It's impossible for them to make anything a month. It's ridiculous. And so I guess some people would argue that if you're getting paid $3.25 an hour, but these people that you're servicing think that your service is exemplary and they're giving you a lot, they're giving you 18% of every bill, then they're making more than minimum wage an hour.
Right.
But they're also doing a lot of work.
Yeah. I'd like to know from you guys that have worked in service, any of your crazy stories, low tipping, most tipping, like the biggest tip you got.
I should tag one of my friends that lives in New York, and they didn't give him a tip at all.
Dang.
And it was like $118 bill.
Jeez. Yeah. We looked up pros and cons too. One of the ones that kind of got me, that I think kind of hits the nail on the head for me, is incentive for better service. And I have worked in service industry, and some other people we've talked to have worked in service industry, and they're always like, no, they like service, you should always tip 15%. And I completely disagree. Like, I have worked in service, and if I did a bad job, I want you to tell me through your tip, like, oh, this guy sucked, do it faster, do it better, do it whatever I need to do. But that's, I think, a form of communication, transactional service or whatever. And so I don't think 15% you're going to automatically get it. I think you need to and again, I understand that you're making this you're making less than minimum wage from the actual employer, but kind of, you know what you signed up for. Like, nobody else, like, we didn't agree for you to go work at this place. Like, it's not, I had no say in you accepting this position knowing that I was going to get bad service, and now, like, I'm required to pay you because you gave me bad service. I was like, no, I disagree with it.
We have had some really bad service. Remember that restaurant that we went to that ended up closing, that they didn't acknowledge us for like 15 minutes?
That's right. We went to a sushi restaurant here in El Paso. I'll leave it nameless. But
I'm just kidding.
The sushi was really good, and that's the only reason they kept us coming back, because I was like, damn, usually we were prepared mentally to go in with bad service. And so I think there's certain times when you can kind of can get away with that, like, oh, their service sucks, but their food is so good or whatever, so that we're willing to put up with it. Anyways, we walked in. They did they take our drink order first,
Mm-hmm.
like right away? Pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
And I forgot if they even brought the water back, but we timed them. They didn't bring the water back, right? They asked for the water. We were the only two in the restaurant. There was 3 people behind the sushi bar, all talking
On their phones.
Yeah, and they're talking to each other on their phones, whatever, just chit-chatting with themselves. We timed them. We gave them 15 minutes. Like, if they're not back in 15 minutes, then we leave. And 15
minutes seemed outrageous.
Yeah.
Like, that was just, like, ridiculous. Like, no, somebody will come back.
And they did not
come back.
We walked out, and as soon as we stood up, that we were walking out, they were like, "Oh no!" Look, like trying to get us to, like, come on, man! Like, you had 15 minutes. We're the only 2 in there, and there was 3 people there. Like, no. So I don't think that something like that would be deserving of the minimum 15% for you to do a terrible job. No way. I don't know what it would take for me to be unconvinced by this, but I think all these, if we're accepting those jobs or accepting poor service, is just enabling behaviors to me, and that's one of my bigger things, my bigger life battles. I don't like enabling terrible behaviors, and I think that's one of them. Anything else?
No, I mean, I'm trying to see the other side of it too.
No, yeah.
I would like to know why that kind of particular job would be accepted. Like, I know everybody has to work in different things. I'm wondering if it does pay off for a lot of people who do service industry jobs, right? Do you make more? Do you make less? Is it mean when somebody's like, when you don't get tipped and you're a barista? I really want to know that too. I actually made a friend and I'm going to ask her. I'm totally going to ask her about it. And then I'll type it into the comments here of what she says, because she is a barista, and she says that, like, throughout the pumpkin spice season, they get hecka busy. And I'm like, wow, like, you're still there. And she said that she's been there for years. So I'm assuming that the tipping assists, but, like, at the same time, like, why aren't Starbucks paying for your job?
Yeah. Do you know if they get paid?
I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, because, like,
and, like, to see if it's supplemental.
Thinking the bookstore, wine store that we go to, they were getting paid pretty well, and I'm pretty sure they get tips on top of that too.
Yes.
So you can
There are
maybe
different
find you can like
places.
if you look around, there might be places that are paying the minimum or better and still getting tips on top of that. There have been like I wanted to post the other day how we made these stickers. I don't know if I have any around here right now, but we made stickers for when we do get really good service, and it's a Star Server award. It's nothing like big, but I think it's also
cute.
just one of those, I don't know, little,
Hey, you did a great job.
yeah, a little ego boost, like, hey, I'm doing a good job. Something that isn't like, I don't know, it's something a little more earned than just getting a tip. And we do tip well. It's not like we're only tipping the sticker. Hey, here's your award, and we.
No, I know it kind of sounds like throughout this whole thing, it kind of sounds like we suck at tipping. Like, no, we do tip well.
Yeah,
but at the same time, like, if you deserve.
Right.
when
right.
you deserve
and
it.
I
right?
don't think,
like,
and again, also based on that too, like, I don't think we're terrible tippers, but I do think, like, and it's not even a high bar for tipping. Like, just do what you're expected to, like the bare minimum, what you would be expected to get at those places. Like, have our food come out in a timely manner, and even when it doesn't, like, I like when you just
they
tell
check
us,
in. Hey,
yeah,
the kitchen is behind on orders. It's
Right.
really full. I promise we'll be with you. Or there's even been some really great ones that are like, hey, you know what? The kitchen is taking long. They have some fresh bread. Do you guys want some?
right, yes,
You know, like, compensation for it, not just like, oh, the kitchen sucks. Okay, but
Yeah.
even at that, when they just notify you, like, hey, they're behind.
right, and it's
Not
just
this
communication,
isn't mine. Yeah,
an update. Like, don't make us make up the story for ourselves, because we're gonna make up. Yeah, I think that's a good sign of a good server who's like, hey, yeah, like, I know you guys have been waiting long. Here's something or the other to kind of make up for it. And you know what we'll usually do when they kind of give us like a freebie is we'll kind of look up the price of what it was,
Whatever
and
it is.
and we'll add it to the tip. So sometimes they'll give us like a free like mini dessert, and sometimes it's like the free one anyways that would be like on for your birthdays
but still,
or whatever.
it's like
yeah.
$7. We'll give them the extra $7 on top of whatever we would have given them.
Yeah, because they would have charged us for that anyway, so we would have been paying for it. So usually we'll just give it directly to them since that was their.
Oh, or like with our kiddo, he's pretty polite, and he had asked, "May I have this and that?" And like he did the order, and the guy was like, "You're the best kid that's ever come in here. I'm gonna bring you some ice cream," and he brought him ice cream, and we paid the guy in tip.
Right.
Like, it would have been like the birthday ice cream; it would have been free anyway. But it was really sweet of him to do so. So we compensated for it.
Right.
I don't know.
So what is
Just do your job.
the other one we came across was just last week. We went out, and I meant to post about this also, and she had some flubs after, but I thought even the initial one we ordered, and we were all gonna have shared. Most of us were gonna have shared plates, so it was two people splitting, and she brought it out on separate plates. It was already split for everyone, and like we didn't tell her to do that, and I thought that was a good like way
That's
to
really cool.
yeah, and took the initiative and just did it on her own, and just didn't just bring the extra plate, like the plate with the meal and an empty plate, and then here you guys figure it out. Like it was already kind of
Yeah, it was neat, split up.
yeah, it was already
I don't know
split
if
up.
it's like what they do there at that restaurant, but I liked it.
Right.
So she benefited from it if it was.
Right, and then later she had a few issues with like wrong ticket at the wrong table and whatever, and but like it wasn't.
Or she
I
didn't
don't
come
think-
back and refill drinks.
Yeah, but I think they did get a little busy because it was pretty empty when we arrived, and then by that time it was a little more full. But it was after we were already kind of done with our meal. Like we were just sitting and talking until our drinks got low. But yeah, what are some good signs of a good service? What do you look for that would be earning of a higher tip more than 15%?
Again, attentiveness and communication.
Yeah, I would say communication is the biggest one. Like I understand when like kitchen gets backed up or whatever. Just let us know. Don't leave us in the dark. not
No,
knowing what's
and
going on or whatever.
I mean, just like being vigilant, right, and observant, like them looking, like I can see you looking, and that's great. You don't need to be like, okay, well, what about this and what about that? Like you're
right? Yeah.
You know,
Like your water story that wouldn't get past.
She was so cute. This one little girl was at this one restaurant that we have in Babins, right?
Right.
They have a drink service and then they have your food service. And so the drink service was very, very attentive. It was kind of crazy. Like our water would get a tiny bit low. I'm talking a centimeter below where she had filled it. And she would be there filling up the water again. So it was so consistent.
It was almost comical. We all took it out in a challenge to see how low we could get, like, and see if we would pass our previous marker.
And so I was trying really hard, like, to beat her, and I could never beat her. And by the time the meal came, I was like, oh my god, I was so waterlogged. Yeah. But she ended up
like, done. I finished.
Yeah, and she ended up coming back, and I was like, I just wanted to let you know that I'm racing you. Yeah. And she was kind of embarrassed. I felt kind of bad, but like, she was extra attentive.
We ended up giving her a sticker for it too.
Yeah, it was funny. And then at the very end, she's like looking from afar, like she really, really wanted to go and fill it up, but knew that it was a race, so she let us win like 2 times. Yeah.
Cool. I don't know if there's anything else.
That's it for me. Yeah. I don't like feeling obligated to it. I do like to express my gratitude through it. Right? It says obligation rather than gratitude. And
yeah, I think in even a lot of the places that now ask for it that like didn't before, like mostly it's coffee shops. I think that kind of started it, but I think it was the systems that like the option is there, and so the businesses I probably just went like, yeah, just go with it. Add the tip.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
We might get more money. Which I'm curious if anyone knows. I don't know if the workers know like how. If you're a worker and it's like a digital tip, are you actually like? Is there any sort of proof that you're getting the amount that people are tipping? You know what I mean? So like, if at the end of the month, like the business made $500, or like, that's probably I have no idea how much a business would make from tips, but hypothetically, if it was $500 and 5 workers, like would you all get your $100 from it? Is there any sort of proof that the business shows you like, yeah, this is how much we made? We're not keeping like $200 and only splitting $300 to you. You know what I mean?
Wasn't there also something that has just recently come up that a lot of the tips were getting taxed? So that's how come they're saying to tip your people in cash. That way it's actually in their pocket. They don't have to do any tax deduction from it.
Right.
And then there's another one too, like, which I don't like, and you've worked in the industry. To me, it sounds flubby, is that the tip sharing. Like, I'm tipping you this amount because I think that you're really good. Now you can have a lump over there not doing anything, and they're still getting tip from what you did. I don't like that.
Right. I disagreed with tip sharing also, even while I was working there, because like it's all spread evenly, and sometimes like you can be on the losing end or the better end of it, but
because
overall,
why would you want to work extra?
Yeah, because even that point that I made that I mentioned here on ChatGPT is incentive for better service. If I don't think that's incentivizing for better service if it's being shared anyways. And I know as a group or as a collective, like maybe I would do, like as a business owner, have some sort of like collective
like
incentive.
Team incentive?
Yeah, like if you all make it past this amount, like I as a business owner will even add something else on top of it, like an extra 10% on top of it if you get this much earned in tips or whatever. Does that make sense? But but I don't think it should be from at least it's a good way to motivate the whole group versus still, even though you're tip sharing, you earn the tip as a group versus the individual service coming from the people. Okay. Well, that's about it. We'd love to know what you guys what your experiences are with tipping. If you're a restaurant owner, we'd love to know what it's like from the restaurant owner side. uh, food service worker. When do you feel like, if you've ever felt like you haven't earned the tip, but people feel forced to make the tip, and so on and so on. So follow us on Instagram. We'll probably put a poll for what you think the next topic is going to be, or what you'd like us to talk about. Okay, this is mostly a lot of stuff that you didn't learn in school, so hopefully we're teaching you something, and we want to make it a little bit change your life a little bit at a time. So what would you say is an actionable tip for this one?
An actionable tip.
Yeah, like tip, but that's
I would say to tip for gratitude purposes.
Don't tip out of guilt.
Don't tip out of guilt.
Yeah, I think.
So when you go to Starbucks today, and you think that they did an exemplary job of listening to you, or getting your name right or something, I guess.
Yeah, and
if you're at a restaurant, if their communication with you is great, and their service was good, then feel free. And if not, show them. Show them with your money, I guess.
Yeah.
What they did.
Money talks.
Did or didn't do. It's unfortunate, but it does.
Right. That's what I was trying to say earlier, is that I don't like tipping before I get the service, and I think that's what my issue is with a lot of the pad things, is like, I'm already giving you the tip before I get the thing.
Yeah.
And
we didn't even talk about like when you're doing takeout.
That's I was gonna mention that because I saw a post on Reddit recently that people can tip bait, and I'm not exactly sure how that works, but that you can put for like food delivery services, you can put a big tip, and so they'll pick up on it, and then like I don't know what happens once they deliver it, if like you pull the tip back, you can remove it. Dang, that's messed up. I don't think that should be allowed from the from the app or whatever.
Is like, and that's for like Instacart. You when you order food to be delivered, like from a grocery store, you have to add in the tip already. And so, like, you'll add in the tip, and then sometimes they do a really awful job. Like, they brought you all rotten berries and, like, all rotten whatever.
I guess that
makes sense. And
then
you're like, dang, like, okay, so now my stuff sucked. And then at the very end, you can write a review on them, and you can add an additional tip, but you cannot remove the tip that you gave them before.
Okay.
And,
so
but that's rough, too, because, like, sometimes I'll tip them $10, $15, and then they bring me a whole bunch of terrible stuff, and I'm like, this was awful.
So then maybe
I just stopped using the service.
I'll say, okay, that's true too. See, money talks. Stop enabling the behavior of it. I was gonna say is like, start with a small tip, and if it gives you the option to do additional, then you can do additional.
They won't pick it up. A lot of times they don't like to pick it up because they're gonna get a big tip from somebody else, and they can jip them anyway. It's crazy.
Touché.
So it's like very honor system, and it's kind of funky sometimes.
Right. So see, this sounds...
And Instacart is already making money from your purchases because they bump up the price to pay the drivers, which is interesting.
Because they're still getting a tip also, and...
Yeah.
Dang.
There's a lot to this.
Yeah.
A lot more.
There's a lot of nuance to it.
Nuance. I like that word.
Interesting.
We were trying to say goodbye.
Yeah, we were. And I'm
sorry.
My gears turning slow.
His hamster's going into food coma.
He's tripping over himself a little bit. All right. We'll leave it at that. Okay.
Bye.